I want you to give us a masterclass on how to raise probably 100,000 for a business idea.
I probably wouldn't go with the raising partners example. Like that wasn't leveraging LinkedIn, leveraging VCs, like intro forms on their websites.
Duncan DiBiase, founder and CEO of Brillband, a next-generation broadband company redefining connectivity through transparency, innovation, and customer-first infrastructure. With a background in venture development and early-stage growth, his mission is to make high-quality internet access a true utility delivered without complexity or compromise.
And then it was luck of the draw, really. You know, who's going to look at my deck in a deck sift? And that's the thing you need to do. Your deck needs to be captivating. Your executive summary has got to be killer. You need to make sure your problem, your solution, market, and opportunity sit within that slide. Because if they like that, they'll then read through the rest of your deck. If not, next.
What can you teach me about negotiation?
Negotiation?
Yeah.
Listen. Like, genuinely listen. There comes a point in life for people where you have to say, I want to create something.
Good to meet you again, Duncan. After about 3.5 years, I would like to know a little bit about your childhood.
Cool. Yeah. I had a pretty sound childhood. Didn't come out without its challenges. So, my parents divorced when I was 6, and then my mum had cancer when I was 11, and then again when I was 16. And I think, so had that sort of trauma side to things. But yeah, other than that, like had a pretty solid childhood, like great parents, great education, which sort of stood me for where I am today. Really, I've learned a lot of lessons on the drive. Like when I was younger, I went through quite a hard period of bullying as well. So that was in my primary school, so sort of really 8 to 13. And then I was fortunate enough to go to private school. So then when I was 13, I went to a school called Leighton Park in Reading, which is a Quaker school, which was amazing. And that school really helped bring me out of my shell and gave me another opportunity to not another opportunity, but an opportunity to show people who I really was. Because I think from 8 to 13, I was sort of kept in my shell a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why was that?
I think kids can be cool. I went to a school called Bishopsgate School. It was a school in southeast of England, and it was, there were some very, very wealthy children, not wealthy children, but children from wealthy families, right? And my family, so although I was going to that school, I grew up in a place called Stanwell Moor, which is at the end of Heathrow, or what at the time was at the end of the Heathrow runway. Like you could see the afterburners of Concorde. It was that low.
Wow.
And then my dad lived in a place called Englefield Green, in a terraced house, like a 3-bed terraced house, whereas those kids were at school and going home to 7-8 bedroom mansions in Wentworth. Like just a different world. And that then I think created an us versus him mentality, maybe. But it, stood me up and taught me how not to be like with people. I would say, like, it taught me how to never treat people in that manner, and to accept people from all walks of life. I had my family's very split. So like my grandfather on my dad's side, very successful lawyer, sold his law firm, was a donor to Oxford College, helped put people in underprivileged positions through the university. And then if I look at sort of my stepfather's family, so my stepfather started his own business. He's awesome, Gary. Classic Movements was the company. But his mum and dad bought their council flat and still live in West Drayton. And so I saw both sides. I saw like genuinely some ultra wealthy, crazy homes. I've never seen homes like that. Like, it's insane. You've got like indoor pools, outdoor pools, cinemas, and you're like, what is this? I've got a 3-bedroom terrace. Like, what is going on? Through to then, seeing the council estate and going to the council estate and not having, and seeing the love, to be honest with you, amongst that group of people, and it was always a big eye opener for me. I would say as a child, like that was the one thing I sort of took away from that, was was the love within the working class community was just really profound.
Really?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that was really interesting.
How?
I think it was interesting for me to see because it was really supportive, and it was sort of like it didn't matter. It didn't matter like money wasn't a thing. It was more about what you could do for one another, and like it was always amazed me how. So it's Jean and Pete, who are my stepfather's parents, and my step grandparents, I guess. It was always amazing about how they just sort of. I walked in, it was like I was their grandchild straight away. Like it was just, you are part of the family, sit down, have a roast, all sat down, tiny table, comparatively to like my dad's grandparents, who's a massive table and you're sat at one end and they're at the other, and still love, right? Still a huge amount of love there. But it just, I think that was the profound thing that I noticed within the working class community comparatively to what I was experiencing and seeing as a child in the middle class. And I don't even know what you call the class of people that I went to school with, some of them, but the aristocracy or whatever. Yeah, so I think that's my childhood, really mixed, or working class, or
Middle class and probably the ultra wealthy.
yeah, exactly, man. Like definitely saw that, and there's pros and cons to every single class that you see there, and as a child being exposed to those was really, I think, really important because it wasn't sheltered.
So you grew up in middle class
Yeah.
and a little bit of the working class while peering at the upper class or the ultra wealthy during your childhood.
Yeah.
How do you think that prepared you for the kind of things you do today in terms of, self-belief, in terms of confidence, in terms of, going at something that seemingly looks juggernaut, something that seemingly look big?
Yeah. It's a good question. I think that it taught me that nothing's impossible, and if someone else can achieve that, I can. There's no reason why I can't. And it's just about working hard and also identifying the opportunity. I think that's the key thing.
The first time we met, one of the things that came to my mind was the story of Richard Branson going after seemingly established businesses that if you are just starting out, you have no business going after all of these set of people. We did record label, did things that if you don't have money, you are not supposed to do it. But one of the things that I found that stands out for exceptional entrepreneur is not necessarily that it starts from very large amount of money, or it is from what I see as a belief that's in themselves that I can do this, and you mentioned that. How do you cultivate this kind of mindset?
I think it comes. I think it just takes time. I think you've got to, I think it forms part of like how you're raised, and also I think there comes a point in life, and for people where you have to say enough's enough. Like I don't want to just be, like I want to create something. And you then got to be able to take the step forward to go and do that. Because I think a lot of people say, oh, I could do that, or I want to do that. But to take the step is the bit that you need to build the risk appetite up for. And I think it just takes certain experiences within your life to create someone like that. Like I don't think it takes a decision or a moment for you to go and say, right, no, this is what I want to go and do. And
can you recollect that's kind of moment for yourself?
I think it's like a couple of moments. I think for me, I'd say the bullying's a big one. So I think that taught me, well, if I'm being bullied for not having, at the time, what felt like, well, I don't know the reasons, they're kids, right? But what it felt like to me as a child was I was being bullied because I didn't have the same amount of money as them. And therefore, because I didn't have a crazy cool house and get dropped off at school in a Porsche or Ferrari, I got dropped off in a Peugeot, like, when my mum worked at the school. But those sorts of things, I think, define you, and they sort of build a resentment. So there's a little bit of resentment there, right? Like I resent you. You think I can't be you. Well, I'm gonna be you. And then I think there was the teachings that I had at my secondary school and into college, sixth form college. So that's honesty, integrity, equality. They sit within the Quaker. So it's a Quaker school. So that sits within the some of the pillars of Quakerism, right? And I'm not, although it's seen or to be a branch of Christianity, I think, but it wasn't a religious school in that sense. It was more, how do we take these pillars of this belief system and teach young adults and young people how to display those within themselves, their education, and then hopefully into wider society. So that was really interesting because it taught me how to treat people. I think that was really important. And then I went into the police. So I did 2.5 years as a special constable, whilst also working at doing gym membership sales at Virgin Active. So I started, actually my first gym membership sales job was for Gym Box in Shepherd's Bush, and I got fired after a month. That went well. The founder and CEO came in, and I'd missed a tear in a seat in a walk around I'd done. And he was such a stickler for detail that because I'd missed that tear in that seat, I was asked to, my probation was failed. So that was great.
Because you did what?
I missed a tear in a seat. There was a seat like a bench press. And the whole point at the time, the founder's vision was this gym should be perfect when you come in as a member. And, that's his vision. That's his prerogative. I was only 18, but you got to make mistakes and you got to learn from them. And I think that's the key thing. And actually, maybe to what you said earlier, is being unafraid to make those mistakes is also really important. And being humble enough that's hard, learning actually to be humble enough to admit the mistakes that you've made in front of important people and also people that look up to you. And I think that then gets you to that point where you feel confident enough to start a business, and not just a lifestyle business, but start a business that requires significant financial backing.
Well, talking about businesses that require significant backing, I would like us to talk about raising purpose.
Okay.
Yeah. How did you decide that was the next business you wanted to do?
Yes.
I want you to walk me through your thought process.
Okay, cool. It's just opportunity, right? So I think in life, opportunities present themselves, and it's up to us to go and take them. In Helena, my girlfriend at the time, now wife and mother to my beautiful children, who had just done an incredibly successful crowdfund on Crowdcube for a business called I Love Gorgeous. And we, as a consequence of that crowdfund, she had lots of people reach out to her saying, really need help raising money, really want to do a crowdfund. Like, how do I do this? What do I need to do? And I was at the time working at a business called Captain AI. It's a business now in Canada. Ryan, brilliant founder, one of the most driven individuals I think I've ever seen, and someone who has faced a huge amount of no and adversity trying to get his product in the market and being a mass adopted. An early adopter of AI and AI routing and algorithm business for deliveries. One of the biggest problems of delivery business is idle driver time. So I was there as their, at the time, head of business development. And it was there that I saw him doing a lot of working with investors, reporting to investors, and I helped write a deck. And it was in doing that and then seeing what Helena was doing that me and Helena looked at each other and realized there was an opportunity. So we came up with the name Raising Partners, and then we went to Old Street to the WeWork that was there, and we got this A-frame printed with our original logo, which was just literally an R in a circle with Raising Partners underneath it. And then we just pitched up. I messaged someone that I'd worked with in gyms, and they were sort of like the community manager there. And yeah, they just said, well, come rock up, put your A-frame board up, and people just started talking to us and talking about, what they wanted to do and how they wanted to raise. One of the first investment rounds we did, I think, was Loch Lomond Brewery with Fiona and Ewan. They're still going. Brilliant beers. And they've just opened a distillery, I believe. Wow. So yeah, it was awesome. And then it sort of then spiraled from that into, growing that business. I very much focused on the business development front, and then Helena was very much the individual speaking to angel investors and conducting the crowdfunds. So I built the brand and ensured deal flow, and then Helena was focused on conducting the investment rounds. That business, unfortunately, came a point 2 years ago where it's two things that tied really, particularly around sort of Brillband journey. But the market changed very significantly. Liz Truss didn't outlast a cabbage, but managed to absolutely decimate our economy. Thanks, Liz. And as a result of that, investment landscape became really turbulent, particularly for early stage businesses. And the interest rates that came with that meant that trying to run Raising Partners, I wasn't part of the business at this point. I left Raising Partners in 2020, but as they were trying to run Raising Partners, it just didn't become viable anymore.
You left in 2020,
I left Raising Partners in 2020, yeah.
just the right time before COVID.
Well, you say that. I left Raising Partners because of a mental health breakdown due to stress-induced burnout. So it was at the right time. And actually, that's how Brillband was born. So in 2020, February 2020, Helen was like, look, you're not well. You need to step away from the business. And so I was like, okay, fine. It took 6 months to get to that point, but you can imagine that was incredibly turbulent 6 months, and she's amazing for standing by me and supporting me through that. But at that point, I accepted that, there's something wrong, and went to the doctors, got prescribed citalopram, and then began my journey of recovery. So that was counselling, but COVID hit, so we are in lockdown now. It's March 2020, and I was having this therapy, but it wasn't in person, it was on mobile. And originally it was meant to be video, but the Wi-Fi, my property at the time, was terrible because the broadband connection was terrible, and it kept cutting in and out, and trying to get through to BT at the time to speak to them about it was a nightmare. And when you've got anxiety and you're on the phone and on hold to someone, and you don't really want to speak to anyone at that point, you start building up the conversation in your head, and you really want to avoid conflict. And so you get to the point where the person answers the phone and your anxiety levels are at sky high, and you then struggle to even articulate what the problem is. So it was then that I was like, why is it that I can speak to my bank despite it being COVID, right? So yes, their call centers are under a huge amount of pressure, but so are Starling's. Why is it that I can speak to Starling in my app? It might be a bit of a longer response, but I can do it, and it's quick and it's easy. Why can't I do that with my broadband provider? And that then sort of was one of the reasons. And then the other reason was that our bill was £64 for 64 megabytes.
Really?
I was like, we've been with you for 6 years. Why is our bill so high? Other people are paying, new customers are paying £32. So why are we paying 64? Anyway, I went through the retentions process and all that stuff. And then we ended up speaking to that person, and they were like, we can give you £3 discount, sir. And I was like, that's it. That's when Project Fair Limited in May of 2020 came about, because I didn't have a brand name at the time. So you'll see on Companies House, if anyone goes and looks at the history of the brand, they will see the first name on Companies House is Project Fair Limited, because the whole point was about how can I make broadband fair and transparent for consumers across the UK.
You are, as a person, as a business owner, you seem to me as somebody who is able to spot patterns, recognize pattern, and recognize needs that could be filled, that can then in turn become a business.
Yeah.
As against, because I speak with a lot of people who want to do business, a lot of people entrepreneurs, not entrepreneurs, they've not started doing it.
Yeah.
That take a long time to, do a whole lot of analysis, understand how every single step is going to be before they take the jump.
Yeah.
But you seem to be able to easily recognize pattern and be able to see a gap that needs to be filled. I'm looking from what you did with the Raising Partners.
Mm-hmm.
You did a very, very good job of being able to connect the dots in two different places. Somebody doing something, what your wife is doing, and what's happening at your work. And I see a lot of people who then build a solution and start looking for problem.
Yeah.
You seem to do it the right way, which is to find a problem, see a problem that people are going through, and find a solution, a real solution that is focused on user. So this is now bringing us to Brillband.
Yeah.
Right now, how did you how does one have that kind of mindset?
Yeah, I think I don't know if this I don't know if it's like a dyslexic thing, because I seem to sort of I've had that comment from quite a few people. I would say that you've got to move quick. So not only once you find the opportunity, you've got to move fast on that opportunity. And in order to move fast on an opportunity, you have to keep things really simple. And the way to keep things really simple is to identify the biggest pain point of your customer, create one solution for that individual or individuals or businesses, and address it, and then get the customer feedback. Like, do they like it? What can we change? What went well? What didn't go well? How do we iterate that product? Because a lot of people, I think, find a problem and they try and build the perfect solution to it. Something that is the final and complete product. But you as one individual, or even if a team of 6 people, aren't gonna get to that sort of perfect product without having something in market. And that's the risk part, right? Like, the more complex you make your product, the more risky it becomes, because the more money intrinsically and time you've put into it. So keep it really simple, and then get it into market, listen, and iterate from that point. And that's hard, right? Because the iteration part is actually really hard, because once something's in market, how do you stop it? You can't. And that's where you become an entrepreneur. Like, at that point. And you said that's a good term you used there, a want-entrepreneur, is that right? Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there that are like that, because once you take the step, once you get on the train moves, and there isn't any other stops, right? The stop is sell or fail. Like, yeah, that's it, right? Realistically. And there isn't, or it just keeps on rolling, right? Like, but then that's death. Like, you are dying and someone succeeds you in your business, right? You're seeing it right now with the Murdoch empire, right? The succession plan has now been agreed. So it's probably a good thing that succession, the program, stopped, right? But it depends on what type of business you're building. But at the end of the day, once you start, there are really 3 options. It's you fold it, either because you've decided to retire, it fails, you sell it, or you die and pass it to your kids, right? Like, that's the reality, right? Or you retire and you pass it to your kids, right? Like, maybe you'll die. But that's it, really. Like, that's what you see. And there's a business here in there's businesses here in Glasgow that are like that, that have been owned and passed down through families.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's those are the 3 options, really. And that's hard for people to, I think, internally deal with, but also acknowledge.
There is something I want to ask you about raising partners
Mhm.
that I think will be extremely beneficial to anybody who is trying to raise funds for their business. You can take 1 minute or 2 minutes to review. I want you to give us a masterclass on how to raise probably 100,000 for a business idea.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't go with the raising partners example. Like, that wasn't where I raised money, really. I was obviously business. So I raised VC money for Brillband, yeah, and the first round of investment took me 2 years. It wasn't quick. So I think the first thing's like, so if we go from a Brillband perspective, my first ticket was from Fuel Ventures. So it was 150,000. They took the SCIS. So first of all, if I was raising money, I would say to anyone raising 100,000 is probably not enough. So particularly in this current climate, and also if it's your first round and it's your first venture, you're going to make mistakes. And the biggest mistake you can make at the start is asking for too little. If you ask for too little, you're not giving yourself enough time to prove out that your product, and this is why I'm talking about go to market quickly and get product feedback and monetize that product quickly, because you aren't giving yourself enough time with just 100,000 to prove out your model. So when you need more money and you go to investors and you say, hey, I need some more cash, they're going to go, well, I'm sorry that you haven't hit the metrics, or yeah, but I'll do it at this valuation. You end up having a down round, a flat round. You might have to give that investor a preference share. So what you're doing is you're compromising your position as the entrepreneur and as the owner of the business.
So the first step, raise a substantial amount of money.
Substantial is probably the wrong word, right? It's raise. Think about what you need,
Okay.
right? And then seek advice on the reality. Speak to a founder that's done it, right? Find one. Knock on doors. I don't like founders that pull up the ladder behind them. There's a lot of them, right? That don't want to talk to people, and I can understand why. It's really raising money is people. There's like a couple of people that really love raising money, right? But raising money is hard, right? Like it is stressful.
Sales process.
Exactly, it's a sales process, and you will hear more no's than you will hear yes.
Definitely.
So, like when I was raising money, I remember having conversations. I had one conversation with a guy that was leading a family office up here, and he said to me, "I was crazy. So you can't take on Sky." And I said, "Well, I'm going to." No, it's not going to work, right? I don't see how you can do this. And these are the types of conversations you're having. And when you're, why would you unbundle? Why would you not take your Sky TV with your broadband? And I could tell him at the time, well, if Sky's 12 million customers, 6 million of them haven't taken broadband. So half of their customers don't take broadband with them. So there is an opportunity. And you'd have conversations like that. And at the end of the day, you've got to convince people that your idea is right. And so who are the people to convince? Well, that's when you've got to find people within the industry you're looking to challenge. And it doesn't necessarily need to be the industry that like they're directly working in it. It's typically people that have successfully worked in it and left that industry, because there can be conflicts of interest. And you want to find people that understand what you're doing and potentially have been entrepreneurs themselves. So one of the best investors I had was a guy named Jack in my business, and he just got it. Like he got what it meant to be an entrepreneur. And the reason he got that was because he makes lots of different angel investments. So he was comparing my performance against the performance of others within his portfolio. And that made those conversations easier. And if you can find angels like that in your first round, you will find your subsequent rounds easier to do.
Okay.
And I would just on that say your SCIS round, max it out in your first round. So 250,000, I think it is now. It was 150 when I started Brillband, but 250,000 is what you can get, and those investors will get 50% of that back off their tax bill, right? So there's a nice tax write-off for those individuals, and if you go on to be a roaring success, their return is capital gains tax-free. So make sure you use that, and make sure you understand it before you start going off and raising capital, and make sure you have the advanced assurance, because if you get to trying to close your round and you don't have that advanced assurance in place, you're going to delay the closure of your round and potentially lose your investors.
Number one, decide on the amounts you will need.
Yeah.
By talking to people, getting advice on how much you're going to need.
Yeah.
Along the way. That's number one. Number two, go speak to people who have raised in your industry or parallel industry. Number three, go look for an angel investor, then start pitching, right?
Yeah, and don't just look for one. Look for, right, angel investors aren't writing you a 250k ticket. They exist, but they're rare. You need to find people that are going to write, 50 to 100k tickets. Because what you don't want is a huge cap table, because at the start of angel investors, because it can prove difficult. And you want to make sure that you're just using ordinary shares as well. Keep it really simple. Because if you start introducing preference shares at the beginning of your rounds, you're compromised already. Any VC or any bigger VC is going to see that and be like, cool, let's roll. I want a preference above that person. And what you've got to understand is the return waterfall. So the return waterfall is simply, who gets paid first when you exit. And the one with the highest preference, so, your biggest investor is typically the one that's going to get paid first. And you with ordinary shares is going to be the last person to be paid out of that return.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
I've seen a founder who exited for maybe 180 or 200 million US dollar, and he got nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Look, it's brutal.
Like it's brutal out here. So you need to know what you are doing from the get-go. I think it's just better you won't just get advice from the get-go. Yeah. We are now moving to Brillband proper. You recognized a need, and how did you get your first few customers?
Yeah, God, you're taking me back now. So I think, first of all, we just had our website up. We did like a coffee shop pop-up. We had sort of like,
Yeah, I remember that time.
yeah, like a kind of sporadic social campaign that was just, not bootstrap, that's the wrong word, but it wasn't the best execution. But we got our first adopters, so I was they joined, and then it was quickly listen to those customers, right? So, and get those customers to refer friends, get those customers to refer family, and reward them for doing so. And then I'll never forget, I then invited my sort of early adopters to come and have coffee. They came to our office and had coffee, and we just listened to them, listened to what they liked, what they didn't like, and then we iterated the product. And that's something that we want to get, to be honest with you, I want to get back to doing. I want to get back to listening to the customers. It's been a wild journey so far, like, because once you start trading, things just, that's when the burn really starts. Like, by burn, I mean cash burn, right? So things move fast, and I think that was how we got them.
Yeah, I still remember vividly the early days where you do some pop-up in coffee shops, brand the coffee shop. I think it was, in my mind, I was like, wow, this is really, really genius to me. Like, wow, this is really, really good. So, and as of then, because I was monitoring your progress, you did forecasted this is that you're going to get a certain number. I wrote it down somewhere in my notes. The first year numbers of users, first year, second year.
Yeah.
Were you able to meet that?
No. Oh God, no. No way. Nowhere near. So, there's a level of, I think there was a level of naivety on my part. Like, how many people can we get on with the investment that we had? And I think also the landscape around us was changing constantly, right? So when I've raised my first round of investment, to raise like a late seed Series A, needed 500,000 annual recurring revenue. And then raised another round of investment. We got close to that, and they were like, right, well, actually, Duncan, the goalposts have now shifted. It's now 1 million annual recurring revenue. And at the point of sort of,
who are the people changing this goalpost?
VCs.
Oh.
Yeah, the landscape shift, the macroeconomics around you are consistently changing. The world around you is consistently changing, and opportunities around them are changing, right? And funds need to deliver a return. So they start, looking at other sectors, areas, and I think it was just crazy. Like, you were watching the goalpost change so significantly, and then they're going, right, you need to put more customers on. You're like, okay, we'll put more customers on. And then you're pitching to existing investors or new angels. Hey, look, I need investments. You're going out pitching for investment again, but you're not pitching for 12 months runway. You're only able to fill up like 6 months runway. And then you've got to stretch it for 10, and then you're raising again. You got to stretch it for another 10. Like, I was raising investment pretty much consistently for 2 years.
Wow.
It was intense. And that was just because goalposts changing. We get to the 500,000 annual recurring revenue. Yeah, mate, 1 million now. Then it was 3 million annual recurring revenue in 2024. And I was like, this is now a point where I have to make a call. And, either Brillband disappears or I sell the business. And you are having conversations with, and I would say to anyone, you've got to be having conversations with people across all like spectrums of like the raising journey. So yes, there's like, I was having conversations with VCs, I was having conversation with PE firms, I was having conversations with, competitors, competitors, and, making sure that they saw Brillband as a viable acquisition, if that needed to be the case. And that was really important, because actually that's why Brillband still exists today. In November 2024, I sold Brillband to APFN, which is owned by Fern Group, and Fern Group is Octopus Investments. So not Octopus Energy, needs to be really clear.
Pardon?
It's not Octopus Energy, it's Octopus Investments. I just need to be really clear on that. But the Octopus Investments are investors in Octopus Energy, and that's where people sometimes can make a mistake. So part of the same group, but not part of the same family.
Fantastic. That's nice. I would want to get into the acquisition part later, but now that you've mentioned it, so I wanted to know, for somebody who is, we're going to get to because to me it seems that's a later stage for entrepreneurship. The middle stages, has there been a day? What are the day-to-day? What does it look like? having to raise funds,
Mhm.
having to be able to, the runway, be able to pay
Yeah.
overhead, be able to manage all of these competing priorities. How has it been for you as a person? How has it stretched you? Because it was Alex Omoze that says entrepreneurship is like eating glass and staring into the abyss. There is no,
Yeah.
for somebody eating glass, it's not easy. Staring into the abyss is not easy,
Yeah, no, I before this, I looked at some of my notes on my phone and I sound not well. So I think, you go through ups and downs massively. So if I look at that period of time, like, I think really making sure you have a good support network outside of work, that's really important. Keeping on top of your fitness as best as you can.
You mean physical health?
Yeah, physical health. I mean,
Okay.
physical health, and I don't mean, I'm not I'm not part of the manosphere or any of that stuff. I just mean, like, try and eat healthy, right? And it's hard, man. Like, it's hard when you're tired and you've done like a 12-hour day and you come home and you're seeing other people talking about athletic greens and, Huel and doing all this stuff and getting up at 4 a.m. and bicep curling, and you're just like, bro, I've got 2 kids. I just need to do some press ups, or I just need to go on a dog walk. And actually that's what I needed to do. And it was trying to maintain that while also trying to bring the energy and enthusiasm that you need to be demonstrating in your office with your team,
Yeah.
so that they feel motivated to continue pushing through the pain that you're putting them through with the promise of greatness is hard. And it's, I think that, so yeah, to go back to it, it's like good home and like support network outside of the office, exercise or try to, and then also so I'm really proud that I've always been able to go to sleep at night. That sounds nuts, right? But you speak to some entrepreneurs and they can't sleep at night. You speak to some businessmen, they can't sleep at night, or they struggle to sleep at night, or and the reason for that is I've always been completely transparent with my team and my investors, and that really helped. Rosie, one of my biggest investors in the business, very, very experienced individual within business, executive chairman of Macquarie Capital. He said to me when we went for dinner, he said, Duncan, if there's one thing I want you to do when you have a problem and you're struggling, it's pass it up. Okay. What do you mean? He was like, pass it up, pass it to Ollie. Ollie was my investment director, another one of our biggest investors in the business. Awesome guy. And if Ollie can't fix it, he'll pass it up to Mark, another one of my investors in the business. If Mark can't fix it, Mark will pass it up to me. And what he was insinuating is that between them, they're sort of over 100 years of experience within investing in infrastructure. And they'd probably seen what I was going through one of their portfolio businesses. And they could either draw upon their own experience or ask their other portfolio businesses or people that they knew to sit with me and help talk through the problem, which they did on a number of occasions. And I think that's one thing that a lot of early stage entrepreneurs that make the mistake of thinking that they need to have the answer for everything. You really don't. It's, it's okay to say when something's not going well. It's okay to tell your investors when something isn't going well. I'm telling you, they'd much rather know about it because they want to protect their portfolio, first and foremost. And therefore, they can protect their portfolio by leaning on their network of people, then they will.
That's intense, man. How, you made mention of people that are your investment director, this person, that person. How do you build those kind of relationship? How did you build? How did you know them?
That's a good question. So Fuel Ventures, my first ticket into Brillband. So first investment, first ticket in our pre-seed round. Did an introduction. I had like an introduction service. And
what's introduction service for those who are not?
Yeah, cool. So you basically will ask an individual to make introductions for you to investors, and the agreement is that they will then take a cut of your investment round. So people who think it's free to raise money, that doesn't exist, right? Like, you have to pay money, right? And No, exactly. And I would set aside like 10% of your round. Genuinely, like in the early days, I'd set aside about 10% of your round. Look, your fees will probably come in under that, but trust me, there's a lot of money involved.
Raising money.
Yeah, in raising money, right? And there's a lot of people need to be paid. So setting aside about 10% when I was doing it was the right amount. You've got legal fees. You've then got, so like Fuel Ventures, like I had to pay their legal fees, right? And then you have your introducers fees. And they they made some introductions. I had loads in those. And then it was really, really odd. So James made an introduction to a family office, and the guy reviewed it and he said, I don't think it's one for us, but I know the guys at Macquarie Capital and I think they would like to look at it. It's like Macquarie Capital. I'm like, who are they? And then look at it. It's like the world's biggest infrastructure investors. They've got some of the biggest infrastructure investments globally between Macquarie Capital and Macquarie Asset Management, two separate businesses under the same. But so one's is investing people's money, that's Macquarie Asset Management, and one is investing the bank's money, that's Macquarie Capital. There's like a glass wall between the two businesses. And I was like, right, okay. James was like, I don't actually know these guys, but look, are you happy for the introduction to be made? You still happy for the fee arrangement that we've got? I was like, yeah, right, let's do it. I ended up going to Moorgate, to their head offices in London, and they've got this really big orange staircase that goes through the middle of the building. And at the time, Squid Games had only just come out, so it looked like the Squid Game staircase. I was like, this is crazy. Right, I'm sat in this massive boardroom. We walk in, and there was Oliver and there was Giovanni, and they were sat there, and they had my deck in front of them. They had my financial model in front of them, and then there was this really big TV on the wall. No one was on that yet, and it was really quiet. It felt like 5 minutes. I'm probably sure it was probably like a minute, 2 minutes tops, where there was nothing said. And I was like, so, like, I'm Duncan, nice to meet you. And then all of a sudden, they barraged me with questions about my financial model, my business plan, the market. I was like, this is intense. And it was quick fire. And then at the end of that, they were like, so, what do you think? And Rosie was dialed into the call, was on the screen at this point. And he went, there's one or two things. Either we do it as Macquarie, or if it's too small for that, I'm actually personally interested. And bear in mind, at the time, I only needed at that point, remainder of the round was like 450,000.
How much were you raising?
650.
You already raised 250 before then.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so I needed 450 left. And that was raised between those guys. And they literally off the back of that, went and had loads of meetings. And next thing I know, I got this request for a call. And they were like, yeah, we'd like to do it. This is the structure we want to put in place. This is how we can help you. Signed all the agreements, and then they wanted to take me for dinner. So I flew to London for dinner, and I got to meet them all. And they wanted to congratulate me, which was really nice. But then also, tell me, because that's the pass it up piece. It was at that dinner.
Oh,
It's talked to me about how they wanted it to work and how they could help me and how they could support me and that they believed in me. And that was. I think that's also like a hard piece. Is like that we all get it, right? Imposter syndrome, and dealing with that imposter syndrome and sitting at a table at dinner with some incredibly talented, wealthy individuals, and sitting there like, I can't believe I'm sat at this table right now. Like, what's going on? Yeah, like, and then you deal with that. And I think the whole journey, the whole way through, and actually, in fact, it's not just like entrepreneurship; it's everyone's careers, right? Everyone is dealing with that imposter syndrome, and I think there's also a whole part on that you need to learn to manage.
Walk me through how you raised the first 250.
Oh yeah, so it was pretty. So lots of sending my deck out to VCs, and angels, load of those.
Through the introduction company, like
No. So that was just myself. So leveraging LinkedIn, leveraging VCs like intro forms on their websites. Excuse me. And then it was, luck of the draw, really. Who's going to look at my deck in a deck sift? And that's the thing that you need to do. Your deck needs to be captivating, and you need to get, your executive summary has got to be killer, right? You need to make sure your problem, your solution, market, and opportunity sit within that slide, because if they like that, they'll then read through the rest of your deck. If not, next. And they get so many sent to them, like thousands are sent to them, that they have to be quick in the way that they review them. So there's a whole, like, you need to be thinking about the psychology of someone in that position in order to sell to them.
So you did raise the first 250 through LinkedIn?
Actually, raised it. So the first 150 was through Fuel Ventures. Then I pitched to. They had at the time. They don't have it anymore. They had like an angel network. So I pitched their angel network. I actually did that concussed. I didn't know I was concussed at the time.
What's concussed?
Like I'd banged my head and had concussion. I didn't know I had concussion. I couldn't even like see the screen. It was all blurry. That's when I knew I had something wrong. And I still raised 20 grand on that call though. I couldn't tell you how that call went. There's apparently a call recording of that sitting around in Fuel Ventures somewhere. So yeah, if that ever comes out, that's going to be quite a funny watch because I had no idea. Can't even remember that. Went to hospital the next day and they were like, yeah, you got concussion. I was like, oh, that explains why I found that really hard. And then then the rest was the guys, the angels, my big ticket angels. So I would call it like Ollie, Rosie, Giovanni, and Mark, all individually.
Not as a company.
No. They were individual angels in the business. Nothing to do with. They just happened to work at Macquarie, but they all knew each other through work, and then that's how they could understand the opportunity. Because they were seeing the digital infrastructure play across Europe and in the UK, and going, this looks like a cool opportunity because it's a market that we understand from an infrastructure perspective. They didn't really understand it from the ISP point of view, but they understood the infrastructure part of the market, and they understood why full fiber was going to be the next big thing in the UK when it came to broadband.
Amazing. Wow. You're really pulling a lot of weights. You're doing a lot of amazing things.
Thank you.
And that was one of the first impression I had about you. Like, I just see you somebody, a David and a Goliath. Yeah, so how are you?
Yeah, it does feel a bit like that sometimes.
It's amazing. So I want us to take a look at where you are currently. The company has been acquired by a bigger company.
Yeah.
So, it looks like the company already see what you are doing for what you have, they saw the value of what you are currently working to achieve. And it seems they want to leverage what they're already doing to, the synergy was supposed to be. Walk me through how did you approach this stage of the business? The business started from zero.
Mm-hmm.
This stage, you raised 600. I think the next one probably under 1.2 million or so.
Yeah, so in total, across the time of like private angel money was about 1.5, I think it was. And we needed a lot more, right? Like we got to that point and you were needing, we needed about 2.7 was the next round, but the metrics that VC were expecting us to be at, we just couldn't hit. So that's when it was, okay, I've got two decisions here. I can sell the business or the business disappears, right? Dies. I didn't want it to die. I put too much into it, man. Like it was like, all right, this does not deserve to die because even the angel, like none of my investors are angry, right? So that's one thing that I think a lot of founders worry about. They'll be angry at you if you've been negligent but when a market's against you, I had guys that lost like 500 grand, like, and they said, thank you for the hard work that you've put into making this business what it is. This is just a matter of market and circumstance. There's nothing more you could have done. Like to have that validation, I think for me was really important. I think without it, I would have probably hit a dark spot, like, because it's,
Wow.
I know to them, like relatively, like it's not a lot, but in my world, that's a lot of money. A lot of money, right? It's not insignificant at all. And I think that was really important. And then doing the acquisition, we didn't have any money for legals, so thanks ChatGPT. So my acquisition, my lawyer was ChatGPT and me. I don't recommend this. I don't recommend it.
Dangerous.
Yeah, it was. But needs must, right? And yeah, no, it was successfully sold. So
So what's the structure right now?
yeah, so I don't own any of Brillband anymore.
You don't own anything.
No, that's the way it is. There's different things though. So I've got an LTIP in place. So long-term incentive plan is what it means. And then other conversations will happen in the future, right? But at the time it was, how do I keep what I created alive? How do I keep my incredible team in jobs? And how do I ensure that the likes of Sky, BT, Virgin Media get away with what they continue to do, which is control a market? And, I want to give people another option. And so I currently am CEO. The agreement was that I have complete operational control of the business. So I can, do what I want within reason. Still have a board structure like I did with previously. So when we had a board, the board is different now. So when the business was acquired, that board is all then, they all have to resign and the new board is formed. But I have a wicked board. And what I'm using this for really is an opportunity to continue the growth of Brillband. And the way I view it is I now don't have to worry about fundraising because as part of that, there was an agreed amount of funding that would come into Brillband that enabled me to go and live the vision. And I'm young, right? I'm 32. So, I noticed your Duncan time book, right? At 30, he was surfing still on the Isle of Wight. I actually really like his book where he talks about that journey. It's a really good read. But I see this as an opportunity at the moment to continue the growth of the business, to continue doing something I'm really passionate about whilst also learning. I've got this amazing opportunity to learn in the Octopus ecosystem, right? So to even be part of that is I sometimes have to think, okay, how's this happened, right? How is my business that I created part of the Octopus ecosystem, part of the Octopus family? That for me is a huge achievement, and I see it as a huge learning opportunity because Brillband won't be my only venture. I think I definitely have the bug, and me, I know where there's opportunities. So there's a couple of things that that I think in the future that I'll once I've achieved what I want to achieve at Brillband, there'll be
the next phase.
Yeah, exactly, right. Like everybody, and it's exciting.
So which brings me to the question of the next phase. Before we go to the next phase, I wanted to ask, what's going to be the next phase for you after you are done with this phase? But before then, how did this phase affected you? Did it affected you in any way? Did you felt there's something I could have done?
Yeah, no, it's a really, really good question. So going through that acquisition period was really hard. It was really hard. Relinquishing ownership of something that I gave everything for was difficult. And it was talking to my friends and family in detail about that, particularly my wife, just talking to her about my emotions. It was really important because if I didn't, I think I would have exploded. I just genuinely do. I just think I would have imploded, just not exploded, imploded, right? Just because it's, I don't know, it's there's a level of sacrifice that you've put on the line of someone to turn around and go, yeah, it's not yours anymore. That dream of that return, that, the thing that keeps you going changes a little bit. But then that was what was really important in the deal negotiation, was how do I make sure that I have something that keeps me here and keeps me motivated? I think that's really important. And there's other ways that you can structure these sorts of deals where you do maintain some ownership. The thing with me is they knew there was no one else coming, so you get pushed, and you've got to be, but you can push back, but only so much. You don't really have much leverage in that deal, in that negotiation. So yeah, it was hard, but I think it helped me. I think the way that we structured the deal with the operational control piece has meant that it's been actually from a day-to-day operation, it's not changed. What's changed is I'm not consistently raising money, and I'm actually getting to build something really cool. So we've got our customer support platform that we've built that's in-house. We call it the Brillband Kraken, like it's our technology built specifically for telco and broadband. So that's what I mean by, sorry, I should be more specific really. And it's wicked. It's a wicked piece of kit. And then we've been able to bring on incredible talent into the business. and we're able to truly go and challenge a market. So, we've gone from being able to only serve 3 million homes across the UK to now being able to target 18 million homes across the UK.
Wow.
And so Brillband has gone from being a challenger brand, in inverted commas, that could only target 3 million homes, so are you really challenger, to now being a challenger brand that can truly challenge on price. So we're fair, with £38 for 1 gig. So I don't think we're the cheapest we are very much, it's a fair price for where we're competing, and with a quality product. And that for me is like, it's wicked to see, because that then gets you going. At the end of the day, we all start our business to solve a problem, and that problem either involves businesses or people, like consumers. And to start seeing consumers happy is awesome. And you then go through all the different pains that come through scaling, right? Like I'm going through those now, which is, right, we've got money, now we've got operational, got to work through operational issues, because your sales engine's doing amazing and your operation has to catch up. And then you're constantly balancing. And like I was literally talking to the team today about, really, when you're in a really small office, it's not really small, but it's an open plan office about the size of the room we're sat in at the moment. It's like, I've got operations, and they're there, and your operations team are typically there to sort out problems within your business, right? They're the problem solvers. And then you've got your marketing team, and you've got different personalities, and you're then managing that, and you're trying to ensure that the founding principles that you put in place in your business aren't eroded by the growth. So there's like loads of different challenges, and that's what keeps me going. That's why I'm still there. So for some people, well, you're a sellout, you're still at a business that you don't own anymore. Well, the way I see it is, I operationally control it. I'm able to continue building something that I absolutely love and adore. I'm financially rewarded, and I'm still learning.
Wow. I think that mindset is what has kept you winning that has given you a winning streak from business to business as a person. And that's sort of the things that I want anyone who's listening to this to be able to learn, imbibe, and be able to replicate to in whatever it is they are doing. Which would bring me to, the last segment. For somebody who has had gone from just an idea of, I want to go after this juggernaut of a business, to somebody who has built what you have built today, what are the lessons you've learned so far?
Yeah, I think I've drip fed them throughout this, but critically is go to market quickly, keep things really simple, and make sure that if you're raising money, make sure you really understand how much you need. And the way to do that is by speaking to others and seeing how much they raised and how much they wish they'd raised. I think that's the question to ask. Is not I always get asked, well, how much do you raise? It's like, well, this is how much I raised. You can see on Company's House. Like, the question to be asking an entrepreneur is, how much do you wish you raised at this stage? At the stage that you're at, like, how much do you wish you raised at pre-seed? Well, actually, I wish I raised this amount. And that will help you understand, why, because that's the next question, right? You'd follow up naturally with, oh, why is that? And then you'll start to really build out an understanding as to what you need to go and do, because you'll start to look at your business model and go, well, do the reasons that this person wished to raise that number, do they flow into my business model and my business? And if they do, then I should probably think about that. Or if I've missed it, I need to recut that model and I need to add that bit in, because there's so many bits, particularly as when you're in your first time out, that you're gonna have no idea about
in the wild world.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, I think they're my key takeaways, like that I'd have is, but yeah, go to business, go to market, and monetize quick.
Go to market, GTM, and monetize quick.
Yeah,
it's simple. That's good. What can you teach me about negotiation?
Yeah. Listen, like genuinely listen, right? You'll typically and do your research, right? Understand the pain points of the individual that you're negotiating with. And that's from an acquisition perspective. Why is this business acquiring me? What pain do I solve them? What do I bring to the table? There's your value. Particularly in the position I was in, The business wasn't, they didn't acquire Brillband for the number of customers we have. They didn't acquire Brillband because of the brand name. They acquired us because of the solutions we were going to bring to their organization. And then if you're with an investor, I think there's more, again, slightly different because it's less recent for me. But I think with investors, it's understanding their portfolio, it's understanding what sort of return that they need to deliver. So really understand their fund cycle and where you're entering at that fund cycle. Really powerful. And look at the number of deals they've done, because you'll start to understand how much cash they still have left to invest and how much of it they need to invest in their fund cycle or in their investment window, particularly when it comes to EIS, SEIS. That can be really powerful in your negotiations. And don't just roll over. Like, I think that's a key thing, right? Is don't feel afraid, particularly in your first round, to say no. There's some term sheets you're going to see. It's very easy to just say, yeah, I'll take that, right? And you could get all excited and, whoa, someone's offered me money. But I actually look at that term sheet and get a lawyer to do it. Don't just look at it. Don't put it into ChatGPT. I know I said that. I did that earlier, right? But don't just rely on that. Seed Legals is a wonderful platform. Don't just rely on Seed Legals. You can use it to do your documents, whatever, right? But do go and do get some advice, even if it's just paying for 30 minutes of a lawyer's time just to review it. It will just give you the peace of mind to know that, one, this is what's on the table, but also it'll help you identify the negotiation points within that contract.
So I think the next thing I want to ask you is, what can you teach me about sales?
Okay.
Because I'm asking that because sales seem to be the lifeblood of a business. Somebody was making a joke that no business ever shut down because they had too many customers. That the right customer.
Yeah.
So give me a masterclass on sales.
Cool. Okay. So first of all, needs analysis, right? So you got to identify the need of the individual you're selling to. What do they need and why do they need it? And you've got two things there. It could be that you're selling a service, or you could be selling a product. So, we could be sat here right now. We could pretend this is a gym environment. You sit down in front of me and I'm like, oh, what are you looking to achieve in the gym today? Why are you here? Like, what is it that's brought you in today, and what are you looking to achieve? And you're going to come back with answers to that. Instead of me then just showing you my entire gym, I'm going to go specific to that equipment. So you might say to me, Duncan, I really want to work on my chest. I'm not going to take you to the swimming pool. First of all, I'm going to take you to the chest press, right? And I'm probably then going to get a PT that's free, or a gym hand that's free, to come over and I'll say, this is our chest press, and this is designed to help support, build strength in your chest. And actually, instead of me, I'm going to bring a professional over that's going to help really articulate how that's going to help you specifically. And you could do that with B2B software as well, right? So that's why solutions architects exist. You'll have the person that's facilitating the call to understand your needs. That, why does Brillband need this, functionality? But then it's how is that functionality going to be implemented into my business? That's really important. And that person can explain that to me. As the decision maker, I don't necessarily know how technically it's going to work, but I'm like, okay, cool. These people know their stuff. Right. And so the needs analysis is probably the most important part, because you can build the rest of your sale off of that. And it's personal. And, I'm really, really listening to you. And then I'm able to sell to that problem.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Duncan.
That's right.
The last one I will leave, this is going to be the last.
That's okay.
What will you want to be remembered for? I'm not saying you are going to die.
I just want to be remembered as being in business or in life.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So I just want to be remembered as being a good husband and father to my kids. That's the most important thing for me. In business, I want to be remembered as someone that didn't just accept, right, and challenge the status quo. And that's not being a troublemaker. That's not being disruptive for the sake of being disruptive. I want to be remembered for someone that challenged markets and championed the consumer.
Thank you so much. Cool. It's been an amazing time with you.